Hey everyone, it's Chrono from the Headphone Show. Today with me I have the Empire Ears Legend Evo. Let's check it out. Retailing at a whopping $3,100, the Legend Evo is Empire Ears' latest flagship IEM, and it represents nothing short of the latest and greatest for what the company has to offer in its acoustic design and technologies. For Empire Ears, the Legend Evo is a revolution. I feel like there was probably a pun opportunity there, that builds upon the Legend X's dual dynamic driver and quintuple balanced armature drive design by introducing the company's new Weapon X 10.9mm bone conduction ultra driver, meaning that each earpiece is powered by an 8-driver tri-bridge system that seeks to deliver unprecedented levels of performance. But before we talk about how these performed in my listening experience, let's go over the basics, starting off with the included accessories. For accessories, the Legend Evo keeps things rather simple. Inside the box, you will find a set of Final Audio Type E silicone ear tips ranging from extra small to extra large, an IEM cleaning tool, a PW Audio Genesis ultra pure OCC copper cable with a 4.4mm pentagon termination. Note that is not the cable featured in the B-roll for this video. And you also get Empire Ears Pandora all-metal case, which, although not easily pocketable due to its tall profile, is sure to keep your precious IEMs safe thanks to its rugged build. Moving on to build and comfort, the build on the Evo is sturdy and elegant in its design. The outer shell is finished in a translucent black finish that allows you to faintly see the engine powering each earpiece. This is contrasted by a gold Empire Ears logo on one side and an Evo logo on the other, making for a very clean aesthetic. As for comfort, the Evo is unfortunately, though unsurprisingly, on the larger side for IEMs. In my experience, this meant that even though the shell had a very good contouring and that it was on the lighter side for for a large IEM, it still became fatiguing and a little painful to wear after about 30 minutes or so. Of course, mileage will vary per user, but if you have small ears like I do, it's perhaps something to keep in mind. But anyways, let's now talk about sound. As I mentioned earlier, the Legend Evo is powered by an 8-driver tri-bridge system that is composed of the Weapon X bone conduction driver, 2 W9 Plus subwoofers, and 5 balanced armature drivers. For those who may be unfamiliar with bone conduction drivers, this is a driver that operates quite differently from more traditional driver technologies, as it bypasses the outer ear by sending vibrations through the skull into the inner ear. And according to Empire Ears, this generally makes for lower and deeper tones as the skull transfers lower frequencies more efficiently than air. Now, right away, I must say that I've never heard an IEM quite like the Evo. Its tonality leans towards the warmer side with a thick bass response, rich mids, and treble that, although a little bit subdued, isn't what I've described as being veiled. It's without a doubt a very easy tuning to get into and one that has a mostly neutral sound. However, what really stunned me about the Evo was the technical performance it delivered, and we'll discuss that more in depth briefly. So let's first talk bass, and if bass is what you're looking for, the Evo delivers it in spades. Under 180 Hz, the Evo features a very pronounced bass shelf that brings a lot of warmth and depth to the mix, with a sub-bass region that feels particularly punchy, with a lot more rumble than I usually experience in IEMs. Now, while the bass shelf on the Evo may be set higher than what I would consider to be neutral sounding and also higher than what is suggested by the Harman IEM target, I didn't find it to reach a level where it became overbearing, as it did settle early enough to not blow the bass to mid-range transition. Additionally, the bass on the Evo was both well-textured and remarkably articulate, making for a bass response that was very fun yet precise in its reproduction. As for the mids, they may be slightly overshadowed by the boosted bass, but for the mid-range there really isn't much for me to say here, as the tuning on the Evo was very good. From the lower mids at around 300 Hz to the upper mid-range at 4.5K, the Evo provided a response that was linear throughout with a rich body and lush presence that wasn't at all forward or shouty. I think that most listeners will find this to be a balanced and natural sounding mid-range. And then we have the highs, and the treble region is really the only place where I found that the EVO sound to be a little bit lackluster, at least from my taste and preferences. At 5K, there's a slight peak in the lower treble that introduced some glare and a subtle tinniness to the headphones timbre. But then onwards, the treble is very even, with no harsh peaks or bumps that I could notice. Now, for some listeners, the mildly subdued treble range, which for me was reminiscent of that of the HD650 from Sennheiser, might be quite enjoyable. However, for me, I felt like the mid-treble region between 8 to 10K could have used a little more energy and sparkle, and the same applies to the air frequencies above 10K. While I don't find the EVO to be veiled or very dark sounding, it's certainly on the warmer side. So it did sound to me as though things like snare drums didn't have the kind of strike that I expected, or cymbal splashes didn't ring out as much as I wanted them to. And vocals were also a little bit lacking in their top end to listen. I also think that having a little more treble energy in general would have contrasted the boosted bass more nicely. Now let's talk about technical performance, starting off with resolution. And when it comes to detail retrieval and overall sense of clarity, the EVO is without a doubt several cuts above anything else I've heard from IEMs. It's easily the best I've experienced for this category. The bass may be boosted, but it's tight and nimble, which when combined with the mids and highs that seem to surface all the intricate vocal and instrument tones, allows the EVO to create a pristine and well-structured image of the music. In this regard, this is the first IEM I've listened to that I feel delivers the kind of performance that I can put in the ballpark as some high-end over-ear headphones like the Aeon 2 Noir. Lastly, we have soundstage imaging and layering. And I think that for these categories, the EVO once again delivers the best performance I've heard from an IEM. Keeping expectations realistic, the soundscape still sounds very much like what you expect from a set of in-ear headphones. However, what helps the EVO stand out and feel particularly spacious when compared to other IEMs I've tried is its exceptional imaging and instrument separation. The imaging on the EVO is very precise, with no gaps that I can notice between the left, center, and right channels. And this made for much more consistent positional and directional audio than what I get on other IEMs, which tend to have weaker front left and front right channels. Additionally, the EVO is remarkably adept at keeping all the tracks that make up a song feeling distinguished and adequately spaced out, making busy musical passages sound very clear with all vocal and instrument lines being easily discernible. Okay, so now to wrap up this review, I haven't had the chance to audition the Legend X or the Odin and therefore won't be making any comparisons, but as a standalone, I think that the EVO is an impressive showing from Empire Ears. I've heard many other IEMs with great tunings and tonalities that I found to be enjoyable, but the level of performance that the EVO delivers is superb, and I'd go as far as to say that it challenges what I believe was possible in an IEM, which does make me rather curious about trying out other flagship IEMs. Personally, if it wasn't because of the comfort issues that I had with it, this would be the first IEM I'd be more than happy to listen to and use as a daily driver in terms of sound and performance. That is to say, a headphone I'd actually listen to at my desk while working or even while gaming, since I found its staging capabilities to be that good. Of course, at $3,100, the EVO is prohibitively expensive, but its technical performance is solid. And if you're looking for a flagship IEM that has a warmer tuning with exceptional bass, then I'd definitely encourage that you add this one to your shortlist. Anyways, that is all for me today. I hope you enjoyed this video or found it useful. If you did, do consider dropping a like. If you'd like to learn more about the EVO or many other IEMs and headphones, I highly encourage you to check out the review section available on headphones.com. For more headphone nerdy content, stay tuned by subscribing to the Headphone Show here on YouTube. And until next time, this is Chrono signing off.